Hi friends, today I'll be talking on Islam and we'll probably have a series of talks on this topic. My goal is to speak or share the gospel to Muslims from a Christian worldview without attacking any prophet or founders of any religion, including the religion of Islam. So the reason I'm doing this is because I have recently watched a lot of debates between uh, Muslim apologists and Christian apologists that ends up in personal attack on its founders. I do not think that kind of an approach is going to win any person to either side. So my goal is not to attack the person, but look at the teachings or the worldview that's presented in each religion and see what is worth believing. When we look at Islamic faith, one of the fundamental teachings that Islam teaches or one has to believe in order to become a Muslim is that the statement of faith that goes like this: there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet. So in pure English it will be like this: there is no God but God and Muhammad is his prophet. So, when we look at the history of religions, we see that monotheism did not start with Islam. Monotheism did not start with Christianity either. We know that Judaism was probably the oldest monotheistic religion that had a strict monotheistic belief and teaching in a time when people were known to be polytheistic. The the core belief of Jews or Judaism is recorded in Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4 and it's known as the Shema, and it goes like this: the Lord our God is one. Now this was something that every Jew had learned from a very uh, young age and had to keep repeating all through their life and hold on to that faith. So very strict monotheistic belief: the Lord our God is one. Now, Islam was not alone in arriving at this kind of a faith. Now, they were probably the first one, but there were other religions that were monotheistic. Uh, if you look at Chinese religions, Chinese culture is one of the ancient cultures. Chinese religion speaks about a supreme God or a mighty God who is worthy of worship, and the name of that God was called Shangdi, and Shangdi continued to be worshipped as a main god in Chinese religions. If you look at African religions speak about a supreme being also, but they also believe in mediators, which means they believe in one supreme God, but there are semi-gods or semi-spirits. Just like in Islam, they speak about different kinds of jinns and angels and things like that. So there are mediators through whom they can approach this supreme being, otherwise to whom they have no access. If you look at Native American religions, the Native American religions also believed in a supreme spirit or the great spirit. That's the right time. The word they used was the great spirit, who is above all other spirits. So there are these, uh, you know, lower level spirits, and above them all there is this great spirit. And if you look at Hinduism, which is usually known as polytheistic, the Hindu teachings actually go, in spite of their polytheistic popular beliefs and practice, they actually believe that the reality or the ultimate reality is one. In Sanskrit, it goes like this: Egam Satyam, which means there is only one ultimate reality. So they actually believe in a monotheistic uh, supreme God. uh, it's little hard to understand because we all know, or we have a awareness that Hinduism is polytheistic. But uh, if you ask a Hindu, where did these gods come from, it will ultimately lead to one supreme God or one supreme being from whom all these other gods came. Also there was a religion much before Islam and Christianity. It was known as Zoroastrianism. It was founded by Zoroaster, who was a prophet, who was known to be a prophet in that culture, around 7th century BC in Persia, which is the current Iran or Iran. And Zoroaster taught that there is only one God, and his teachings uh, took place in a time and culture when people were primarily polytheistic. So when we look at the world scenario of religion and religious movements, we see that monotheism was not really new uh, to the time of Muhammad, or the time when he taught a monotheistic faith. There was nothing newly invented. This was not a new faith. This was followed by Jews, Zoroastrianism, uh, which became famous in those days, and he was known to be a prophet and philosopher all over the world and had followers. And Chinese religions, Indian religions, African religions, Native American religions. So you take any place all over the world, they all had a monotheistic faith. Now, when we look at this monotheistic faith, we also understand that their monotheistic faiths were different, just like it is different today. For example, the Jews had a strict monotheistic faith. The Lord our God is one. There cannot be a second one. It is true of Zoroastrianism also, which spoke about one supreme God, but they were not strictly monotheistic. There were room for other gods. So also in Hinduism, there were room for other gods, but they believed that the ultimate reality is one. There cannot be two. They were strictly against dualism. When we look at African religions, again, they believed in supreme God, but they were mediators who were semi-gods. And same is true of Native American religions. So some of them were strictly monotheistic, but some of them were monotheistic, but not strictly monotheistic. Now there's a difference between monotheism and strict monotheism. I will explain that later on, especially when we talk about the Christian worldview. Now, so if you look at monotheism as something that existed before Islam, much before Islam, what was unique about the teachings of Muhammad, or what was special about his teaching? Well, people already knew there is only one God, there can be only one God, there cannot be more than one God, speaking from a theological and philosophical perspective. So the only thing that had new to the faith that Muhammad had to affirm, and the Muslims affirm now, is that Muhammad is his prophet. So the Lord our God is one. That's what the Jews taught, and Muhammad taught there's no God but Allah. Everybody knew that there's only one God. But what goes beyond that is, or added to that faith, is that Muhammad is his prophet. Now, this is an interesting teaching or faith, because in Zoroastrianism, Zoroaster is a prophet, but no one has to affirm that Zoroaster is his prophet. Like there is only one God and Zoroaster is his prophet. In Christianity, Jesus is a prophet, but he's not only a prophet, he's a teacher, he's a priest, he's a king, all that. But no one has to affirm that there is only one God and Jesus is his prophet. So also in other religions, like if you believe in Confucianism, you don't have to say there is only one God and Confucius was his prophet. You don't have to believe in Hinduism and say there is only one God ultimately, and one of the gurus, let's say Shankara, was his prophet. We don't have to do that. Now, when it comes to Islam, it's very interesting, because Islam actually teaches that there are other prophets in history. For example, they believe that Abraham was a prophet. They believe even Jesus was a prophet. Now, they don't have to affirm that there is only one God, or there is only one God, he's Allah, and Jesus was his prophet. They don't have to say that. They don't have to say there is one God, or there's no God but Allah, and Abraham was his prophet. No, they don't have to say that. What is so special about Muhammad that they have to affirm that? Who taught that? Muhammad himself. Now, why a prophet claims that their faith in God has to affirm their faith in he himself, or that prophet himself who taught that. So that's very unique. So get this clearly. Islam believes in different prophets. So many prophets, actually. If you read the list of prophets, there's a large number of prophets mentioned in Quran, like Abraham and Jesus and many others. No, but they don't have to affirm that there is no God but Allah and all these other prophets are his prophets. But when it comes to Muhammad, they have to affirm that as part of their faith. Now, this for Muslims to think, why is that they have to affirm faith in Muhammad also and not in other prophets? Or why don't they have to affirm or declare that statement as part of their faith statement? We'll continue our look at Islam through a worldview perspective. We'll end this talk here for today, and we'll continue next week. God bless you all.